Okay, I think we're ready to start now. Hopefully everybody can hear me. I'll probably get a call from somebody in a second if people can't hear me. I'm on my phone. The audio quality should be fairly good. So this is going to be the webinar on BIM 360 build from the BIM 360 range. So I hope it's all in the right place. Sorry about the slightly late start. I just started a new webinar rather than starting this one. So I hope everyone's well. I'll just introduce myself first and a bit about Man and Machine. I won't spend ages in the PowerPoint. I will go into the demonstration fairly quickly. This is going to be an hour's view on BIM 360 build, what it can do. There'll be light touches on BIM 360 docs just because it's the underpinning sort of foundation to BIM 360 build, but we're going to cover in quite a lot of detail what BIM 360 build can actually do. To start off, I'm Jonny Pye. I work for Man and Machine. So my background's been in structures and civil engineering. Came to Man and Machine about 3 years ago. Really enjoyed my time at Man and Machine. And yeah, kind of picked up some of the new applications that have come about, BIM 360 Suite being one of them. But yeah, a bit about Man and Machine as well before we start. So like I'm not going to do too much on this. I'll just do 2 slides on Man and Machine just so we can get into the main detail of it. So we predominantly deal with AutoDesk software, but we have a lot of other software that we also provide, like scanners as well and things like that. Like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail on these. We are a German headquarters-based company, but we have headquarters and sites all over Europe. So we have a lot of expertise around the board. We can get in touch with and kind of get a feel for what's changing in the construction industry in lots of different places rather than just the UK as well, which is quite handy. So that's a bit about Man and Machine. It's a bit about myself. Like I say, I hope everyone's doing well at this moment in time. BIM 360 has been a bit of a whirlwind recently. We've been doing a lot of work with BIM 360 docs and BIM 360 design, just getting people working remotely and being able to work from home essentially. Those 2 platforms are very well designed for that kind of work. What I'm going to do very quickly is just go through some of the BIM 360 suite, just because there's been a couple of name changes and it's just to clear a few things up, make sure everyone's okay with what BIM 360 build is or was, what it might be, and where it fits within the suite of BIM 360 modules that Autodesk released. So the 4 main BIM 360 suites that I will talk about are BIM 360 Docs, BIM 360 Design, BIM 360 Coordinate, and BIM 360 Build. So I'll go through them one by one and give you a little bit of a lowdown on them. So BIM 360 Docs is the sort of foundation of all of these different modules. It's the common data environment. It's where all of the data fits, essentially. So you can't have design without docs. You can't have coordinate without docs. Design, coordinate, and build, they all plug into docs. So they're all just extra capabilities, essentially. But you will, with each of those packages, if you say bought BIM 360 Design, you would get BIM 360 Docs because docs is what everything sits on. So you need to know a bit about docs, really, to use some of the other stuff. I will go, like I say, go through light sort of introduction to what you need to do inside of docs to get things set up, but it's going to be predominantly on build. So that's docs. BIM 360 Design is a collaboration module within docs, so it allows you to Revit Cloud Workshare. So essentially, if you've ever used things like Revit Server before, it's very similar to that. It will allow you to access your models in the cloud. The only difference there being there's no server setup or anything like that. So like I say, docs and design have been very much in demand recently. There is actually at the moment the opportunity to get both those modules for, I think it's the next 60, 70 days for free. So Autodesk have made those platforms available to people for this moment in time for free so that everybody has somewhere essentially that they can work from home if they need to use design software. So it, as well as Revit, it also works. You can also work with AutoCAD, PWG, Civil 3D will work on there as well. Most of the Autodesk platform, you can now actually work entirely hosting the file from BIM 360 Docs with exactly the same capability as you would be if you were working on your local machine. So very, very honed for working at home. BIM 360 Coordinate. This actually used to be called BIM 360 Glue. There are still elements, and the word glue kind of pops up in different places. But it allows you to clash detect. It actually comes, I believe, it still comes with a license of Navisworks as well. But again, it comes with BIM 360 Docs if you bought this package. But the idea here is that you might use this module if you were, say, doing a 2-week coordination review. You can use BIM 360 Coordinate quite easily in a meeting to just show off the different clashes, issues, coordination issues on a project quite easily. It also allows you to federate models very, very easily. So yeah, it's designed for coordination essentially on projects. And again, that's entirely cloud-based. So you can run the clash detection using the models that you're actually working on. At the moment, just as in plan, so a bit of minutiae in terms of that, but it allows you to automatically clash detect your models. And what we'll be looking at today is build. So this is BIM 360 Build is for getting information from site back to the office and vice versa. So the information being all in one place and easily being able to track things like quality and safety. We also go through things like requests for information and submittals inside of BIM 360 Build. But anything to do with site, anything to do with perhaps inspection and things like that that are going to happen during construction, BIM 360 Build is what you might use. So looking just quickly at BIM 360 Build, so it has had a name change. It was called BIM 360 Build previously. So there is the option when you use this in BIM 360, set this up to use the previous version, which was BIM 360 Build Classic. It was actually a standalone item, and it plugged in with BIM 360 Blue, which was a desktop app as well. But Autodesk has moved away from that and are now looking at getting everything onto they call it the next generation of field management. So everything being inside a browser rather than needing any kind of local app to work with. We're going to be solely discussing the next generation of field management. So we won't be looking at anything classic. I will mention ways that you can make your life easier if you've ever used BIM 360 Classic to bring things across, but we won't actually look at that interface at all. It's going to be purely about the field management for the next generation. So yeah, just to mention that now, but it is called BIM 360 Build at the moment. I'm sure if you search BIM 360 Build in Google, you would find BIM 360 Build out. The names are still sort of legacy a little bit there. So who is it useful for? BIM 360 Build is going to be useful for sort of quality and safety employees, so subcontractors, site managers, lead engineers and lead architects. So anybody, say maybe something on site is being constructed and there needs to be a request for information because perhaps something has happened. Perhaps the site manager needs to get in touch with the lead architect or lead engineer to ask the question about what he should do about that issue at that moment in time. So it's just useful for anybody that needs to get or create information about what's happening on a construction site. So what's included in BIM 360 Build? So we've got RFIs and submittals that we can create. We're going to be going through all of this stuff. There is actually also in this same remit daily logs that you can create as well. You've got quality and safety, so checklists, questions that you might ask. So I will actually get my phone up on the screen in this live demo. Hopefully that's going to work okay. And I will show you what it looks like, perhaps if you had somebody going to site with a checklist and they were inspecting things, creating issues, adding notes, and creating photos. Essentially, maybe all the things that may have been done with somebody going around, taking pictures, and then writing down things about those images, and trying maybe to get that JPEG underscore 5423 or whatever number it is attached to the information it needs to get to. With BIM 360 Build, all of that's just in one neat place to be able to access. And also with BIM 360 Build, you will get insights, or you will actually get more in insight. Insight exists for docs users as well, but it will actually give you a few more tabs and insights to be able to look at the metrics or the data that you're actually creating from site. So all of this data is extractable. Obviously, things like the checklist, things like the daily reports, the things that you would maybe want to file every 2 weeks or something, so that if you had a quality procedure, you can go back to something and you can find out exactly what happened. Or if you've got an archive procedure, a formal archive procedure on the QP quality procedures, then you can get that information out and put it somewhere in a sort of hard format that you can then pull up when you're audited or something. So all of this information is extractable is the point, and Insight would be the way to do it. And you can automate that extraction as well. Okay, so we'll get into BIM 360, BIM 360 build itself. Before I do start, there is the option to ask questions as we go on this webinar. So you'll find that in the little window that you have open. If there are any questions that you have while we're working along, please do just ask them, and I'll pick them up as best as I can. I'll have my eye on the right-hand screen. I've actually got 2 screens at the moment, so I'll do my best to make sure I can pick that up. So everything in BIM 360 docs is browser-based. So I'm just going to leave this behind for a second. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work sort of from top down. So I'm going to work from an account admin level. So right at the top, somebody who's going to be creating the project in BIM 360 docs, checking that you have enough licenses, making sure that the templates and roles are correct and things are set up neatly from the very high level, and then working down to a project manager level and then a user level. Just because, and I'll be filling between after I've done that, just so you can kind of see the interconnectedness between them. So first of all, account admin level, when we're talking about build, we also need to have a project setup in docs to be able to use build first. So like I said, I hope you have some experience perhaps with docs or a little bit familiar with it. I'm going to use this 1005 from 260 build demo that I've got here. You can, in this interface, you can check who's using what, things like that, based on members that you've got in there. The account level, you can also check the amount of licenses you're using. So it's a very friendly interface for somebody who's a contract manager who just needs to make sure they have enough time left on their licenses, and also how many licenses they've got. So these are all the different services that I have. Like I said, there's a few others that I didn't mention. I just mentioned the main 4, but the important one that we're looking at here is project management, which is actually a module that comes with BIM 360 build, and the field management here. So a really easy way to keep track of your licenses. And the account admin area, probably more something aimed, I guess, towards a docs demo really, rather than a build demo. It should, at this point, I guess, be a project setup and ready to go so that we can explore some of the build features. One thing I will mention at the account admin level is to do with checklists, and this will be important as we move forward. If I click on my account admin here, I have field management actually as an option inside my account admin. The reason for this is because at account admin level, I can set up all my checklists. So if you imagine I had, I don't know, 100 projects going, and they all needed checklists, and they're all really standard templates. You can actually set up your templates at account admin level, and then you can publish those for any projects that have fields activated. So you don't have to export to an Excel and then bring it into a different project. You can actually create all of your checklists at account admin level and just push them directly into any projects that you need to use them. So a really, really handy way, an easy way of actually creating your checklist and making them consistent as well. You're going to do the same on every project then, so everyone's going to know what they're looking at every time. It's going to be really helpful. When you want to create checklists, and we will do this at a project level rather than an account level, you can either import via Excel. So if you have created some checklists, perhaps, and we're talking about questions, so I've got an example, perhaps second down there, personal protective equipment clothing, that's going to site and checking that everybody has personal PPE. Things like that, or perhaps you're checking the quality of the welding, cutting, and brazing. Just an example of a checklist. You can import from Excel. I will do an example of that. And just this is what I was talking about earlier. If you do use classic field, Autodesk haven't forgotten about you. You can import all the templates and checklists that you use in classic field as well. This account admin level here is really easy for, makes it really easy for consistency. So you're going to get all the same kind of questions every time. And also so you're not reworking on all of the projects. So a really useful little area. There is also insight here. I will just dive into this while we're at account admin level. So there is the option to look at insights. And insight, what it means is, it's like it would be sort of a manager who wants to get an insight into the project, into a project, or in this case, the entire hub, so all the projects, and see what's happening. So I can see locations of projects. We obviously maybe left one over here in the United States, in Kansas. If anyone's on from Kansas, they're doing all right. But it shows you where your projects are. It shows you if you use issues, so perhaps you've got safety issues that you're using in docs or build. It will actually give you a risk assessment using the construction IQ of projects that perhaps low risk or high risk. I just don't have a lot of data in these projects at the moment to say where they are. But as you build up a project, as the issues are collected, this will give you insight as to kind of what's going on in the project. Their high risks, their water risks, reworks, key activities and things like that. That if potentially had a high risk, you might go into that project and you would just investigate, why is this a high risk project? Are we getting a lot of welding issues? Are we getting a lot of safety issues? What's actually happening on this project that's an issue? So this is why issues on BIM 360 Build and Docs are really important to use, because you've got all of these tools to be able to actually interrogate the information that you're building up. And it's broken down into different areas of issues. So you've got design issues on projects, so you'll be able to see kind of which projects perhaps are having a lot of design issues. Quality, so if I had them and we were doing a lot of quality checks and inspections, we would have information about those as well. But like I say, this is the account admin level. So we are seeing this for the entire hub, every single project that we are currently working on. And I've probably got maybe 30 there. And if you're using it in earnest, you could have, I guess, hundreds. And this would be a really quick way for someone at a very high level to quickly find out what's going on, if there are any problems to pick up on. Okay. So like I say, I will go into some of those functions a little bit more in more detail, but what we're going to do now is head down to the project admin level. So what I'm doing here is I'm heading into a project. We're just going to look at what options we've got in terms of building here. So once I'm in a project, I've got a few more tabs. Obviously, we've got the document management side, which contains just all the information. And then I've got field management and project management. So these two services are services that you would need to activate per user. So in here, I've got which services are activated, so field management and project management, both activated on this project. And then in members is where I might assign users to those services. So because I've activated document management, project management, and field management, I've got a list of the users that have access to those modules here. And I can see how many licenses I might use in this project on the right. So I can just quickly click on field management, see all, and then I'd be able to just quickly find out who's got what essentially inside this particular project. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go through the field management side of things. So this is going to be looking at templates, checklists, and also refresh that. I'm doing a couple of things on my phone, so it's probably just thinking itself. So what we have here, like I say, we have checklists and templates. So this is going to be where you could, if you'd created them at account level, you could just push all of the templates, so all of your template checklists directly to this project, and you wouldn't even need to set up any templates, they would just be done. So I've got an example of one that I pushed through here, and it works exactly the same, it's just creating the account level rather than in the project. So just to quickly go through what a checklist is, I will create one first using an Excel that I have. So I'm going to import, choose an import template, an XLS spreadsheet, hit next, browse to my, which one have I not got here? So I haven't got my personal protective. Just to show you what this looks like, Autodesk actually gives you an Excel template to use when you're putting these in. So They look like this, but it'd be very easy just to pull the data out from somewhere else that you've got perhaps, and you can create sections in here. All of these questions are actually going to be the same. I will create one that's different so you can see what kind of different answers you get. But this allows you to quickly push the information into BIM 360 Docs. And it's really quick. So if I choose this and import, the processing may take a little bit of time, but actually it is pretty quick. If I refresh this page, I'll probably find that that's an option to use almost immediately. And I'll get an email to say that that works as well. So I should get an email through. But I've now got a new checklist that I can use here. Just to show you what that looks like. If I look down my list here, I've got those questions, and all of these are yes or no. So remember, this is just a template. This is what I essentially need to be able to send or assign to someone to actually do. And I can edit this now that it's in here, so I can click on the little edit button here and I can add subsections. I can actually change what the answer is going to be. So if maybe I choose a shorter question. So are hard hats inspected periodically for damage? You could put yes, no, true, false, pass, fail, plus or minus, and you could also do multiple choice. So in this case, you could perhaps yes, no, and then you could have maybe answers that say once a week, twice a week, or something like that to give a bit more detail. You've also got text answers, so if there needs to be a description, you can write those in as well. But this is pretty exhaustive in terms of how you might someone on a site to answer objective questions. I'm just going to hit save on this, and what I'm going to do is I will set up a very quick one so you can see what it's like setting one up from scratch. I won't use the one that I create, but it's just so you can see how it works. So we might call this one portable power tools and equipment. And then the description is just a bit about what it's being used, checking equipment. And the type here might be, say, safety in this case. And then we can allow sections to be assigned, and we can also create signatures at the end of them. So if we need people to sign it off. So we could use this perhaps for a daily briefing. If say everybody's coming into the site at the beginning of the day and you need to have them all sign this, you can have multiple signatures. They just answer a bunch of questions and they all then sign it. You could potentially use something like that. And then in here you create sections. So we'll just call this equipment. And you can create multiple sections, so I can have a second section, etc. to go through just to break out the different types of questions. And I'm just copying from another Excel to put in here, but I could have our grinders or similar equipment provided with appropriate safety guards. And then I could say, differently, have multiple choice, add different answers, etc. in here. What you can actually also do with these is, if I change this perhaps to yes or no, is I can set a default issue to be created. So if somebody says no to a question, I can have an issue that's automatically created or partially filled out so that I have issues being created or reasons why issues are happening behind each of these questions. So I can hit auto create here and that will just then auto create that issue. So you can actually set the questions will not be optional by default. So if you want a question to be not optional, you have lots of different options in here. You can attach files, so if there are specs that need to be checked, say the grinders are a certain supplier and that needs to be sort of appropriate against the spec sheet, you could do that. But you can really, really granularly create these templates. And then the required signatures at the end, like I say, if you had, say, 10 people and they all needed to sign it, you just need to specify perhaps who it's going to be. And then once this template is assigned to somebody, these people will then need to sign for it. Those are very, very rudimentary templates, but I will publish it anyway so you can see what happens. So once it's published, it's then in this list. And what I can do from here is I can actually use the templates that I have. So I'm going to use the personal protective equipment one, and I'm going to hit create checklist. So what this is going to do is it's going to show me what the checklist is. I can change the name if I would like to. I've got the option here to then assign it to somebody. So I'm going to assign it to myself in this case. I'm actually an account admin, so I am seeing everything as an option to be able to do. when you're setting this all up, you just make sure that everything is permission-wise correct. So locations, I also haven't set up in this project, but this is a way if you can set this up in the project admin area. If you get an Excel spreadsheet from somebody that has all of the names of the project in it, you can actually import the Excel, and then the names of the locations are exactly as everybody else will refer to them as well. So anyway, I've set this up. You can export these in here if you'd like to other formats, but I'm going to go back now. So now that I've set this up, I've got in my checklist list my personal protective here. It's been assigned to me. My scheduled date that I set this for is tomorrow. So what I'm going to do now, and hopefully this works okay, is I'm going to open up my phone and I'm going to pick this up, hopefully live on my phone. So it might take me 2 seconds just to use the little app that I've got. Here we go. So I've got my phone here, and I'm hoping everybody sees this. I'll just check that you're seeing exactly the same thing. Brilliant. So I'm using the BIM 360 Docs app here. So I've created this checklist. I am now somebody on site who will have got an email. Obviously, I've assigned this to myself. I've got myself an email. I've got the new checklist available. I will then, in this case, just update the list of checklists that I have. So just get back to the checklist. So I make sure I'm in the right project first. BIM 360 build demo. Yep. And now what I should find is data. There we go. So now I have my personal protective equipment enclosing checklist to run through. So I'm the person who needs to go through this checklist on site. I can open this up, and obviously, if it hadn't been assigned to me, the reason I can see all those checklists is because I am the account admin. If I was just a user, I would just see the ones that are important to me. And then I would go through here and say whether these are right or wrong. And then I can add things to this list. So I can add photos in the right-hand side there at the bottom. You can see I can add photos, I can add notes, and I can add issues. So if I just click on issue, you can see I'm creating an issue based on that question. I can add notes. And I can also add photos. So I can just take a picture of my laptop there. So it allows you a lot of control, but all the information is in one place. The idea here is that for all of the inspections that we do, we're not getting back a crumpled bit of paper with some pencil markings on it that I'm going to have to interpret later on in the project, or find in a drawer or find in a filing cabinet that someone's created of all of this stuff. So as I'm doing this, I'm getting a little bar at the top that's telling me how far I've got. So I can finish all of these. So I go through this, make sure everything's done, and then just hit done at the top. And in this case, this one didn't have any signatures to create. What that should have done now is created or finished off that particular checklist. There we go. And I've got all of that information at hand on my PC now. I can pick that up anywhere I want. If I had any laptop, I can just log into BIM 360 Docs and I'd be able to interrogate this. And I'll have that in my list of checklists now. So you've also got this schedule. So if you were somebody who was maybe managing the checklist that people need to do, you'd be able to see very quickly whether somebody had maybe missed the due date to do that checklist. So this is, let's kind of fly by, I guess, a checklist. If you create issues associated with those checklists, you will get them in a list here. So when you're answering those questions, you saw on the phone, I have the option to create an issue. All of the issues associated with any of those checklists you get here. And if you use BIM 360 Docs, they work in exactly the same way. These are actually you will actually see all of the issues in here. So when you're using issues, it's really important that you make sure that you've got the correct types, you've got the correct subtypes and different metrics in there that will allow you to then find those issues later on. You can now, as of I think 2 weeks ago, create templates for issues. So if you have somebody that's filling in the same data, going to site and filling in the same data on every issue again and again and again, you can actually create a template that will fill in the data that stays the same and then just fill in the description. I'm not going to go into that just because that's more of a docs feature, but you can actually get quite a long way with the issues just from docs. So The other thing that we have in the field management area is the daily logs. So what this is going to allow you to do is if you set the project address up, you can actually say we're on site today, April the 17th. I can say get the weather for this location here, Oxford, and that's going to get the information. I think it's coming from perhaps an American weather service, but I've got the weather. I can add any notes. It rains, so no concrete or pouring. And then I can add in the amount of workers perhaps I have on site. I can add the company name that they work for. So I've got all the companies I work for on the project here. The number of workers, perhaps 2. They work 3 hours each, or 3 hours in total. Any notes, and then photos again. So the reason this is useful, again, is because I used to get these, and they would literally be crumpled up bits of paper that I would have to scan in, and then if they were going to be important, probably never be able to find again anyway. So the idea here is that I have a list of daily logs from the guys on site, so that there's just a bit of information about things that happen, any important things that happen. Perhaps it might help me also cost. So if I can add notes in here, I might be able to add things about if something comes up later, I can see how many workers that particular company had in here. So it should be useful for all of those reasons. And then I can just hit publish. So when we come to Insight, I will show you very quickly how you can essentially get all of these daily logs into a PDF, so you can export a weekly daily logs sheet. That will just give you a PDF with all of the daily logs in for the week. But you can go back to any date in here, so I think I did one yesterday perhaps. So yeah, it just allows you, like I say, instead of having a crumpled up bit of notes, you can do this perhaps on your phone, and then you're not having to dig around in filing cabinets trying to find stuff later on. So daily logs are very useful. And that is pretty much an overview, a very quick overview on the field side. There is a lot more to it. You can actually export reports from here. You've got an option to filter the list that you get in here, because you probably have a very long list, and you can do that based on all the metrics that you might have input in there. So very handy for checklists. So that's the field management tool that we've looked at there. Let me just check for any questions at the moment. There is one question, but it's a little bit too high at the top. I can't actually read what it actually is. So anyway, what we'll do now is we'll move from field management onto project management. So this is another module that comes with BIM 360 Build. I did forget to mention actually that there is, we're not going to cover it in this session, but there is actually a BIM 360 cost module as well that will plug into BIM 360 Build. It's an extra cost. I don't think it's much more, but it allows you to follow costs in your project. So there will be a review process essentially associated with a cost, and it will essentially take things and you can push them through people and reviews to get them approved, and then keep track of costs as well in the project. So we'll look at project management now. If you do want to talk about that cost module, give us a call offline and we can maybe go through a little demo of how that works. Just because it's not part of Build initially, it just didn't really fall within the scope, I guess, of this webinar. So in project management, we've got a couple of the different functions that we spoke about in PowerPoint. We've got RFIs, request information, we've got submittals, and we've got meetings. So what I'll do is I'll go through each one one by one, and you can just have a quick look at how they work. There's actually been a lot of updates recently to RFIs and submittals to make them easier to use. But essentially, they do what they say on the tin. The submittals perhaps is a slightly American term, but we'll go through what it does, and hopefully you'll be able to apply it to however the terminology is described in the UK. So in terms of RFIs, request for information, we have a couple of different options about how we create them. What I'll do as well in this one is I will use my phone again to create one. I'll create one on the PC on the desktop first, and then I'll head over onto my phone. So Again, because this is construction, we might be talking about someone on site looking at something and asking a question. So we can create a request for information from the browser here. So I can go create RFI, and I get a bunch of metrics to fill out. So whether it's a draft, so whether I want to push it through later, whether it's submitted, or whether it's open. And we bring on the submitted. There's something in my head that I can use here. Doors, doors, window spec, no longer available. So I might be more specific about these, but I'm going to assign this then to a demo user. I realize now actually that list is very small, and there's a reason for that, and I'm going to, after I've done this little quick demo here, I'm going to show you the reason why I have certain people in these lists here, just to show you the control you have over who's seeing RFIs and how they're being pushed through the review process. So in this case, I might be somebody on site, perhaps a project manager, who is trying to fix something, and I need to push something back and get it approved so that I can quickly work forward with what I'm doing. So I'm going to say, the due date is today because I'm in a rush, and the question is what steps should I use for so this might be an issue you have. So I've got Grammarly here to help me out. Hopefully it'll be coming good. Okay. What specs should I use for doors if they are no longer available? There we go. I can add a suggested answer. I could then add an attachment if I have maybe some spec that I can get that's very close to the door. I could add that so I can browse to anything that's on BIM 360 docs or upload from my PC, and then attach that to this RFI. I then have again, location where this might be. Is this going to impact cost? Probably will, because it might be more expensive. Is the schedule going to be impacted? Yes, if there is a longer lead time to the view doors. So we'll put this down as normal. I guess all of this stuff is stuff that you would want to sit down before a project and hash out exactly what high, normal, and low mean to the users on the project. This would, in my opinion, probably not be the most important thing unless there are guys on site just standing there. And it's probably going to be an architectural problem. So we'll say, use the other for this. But there's lots and lots of metrics here for you to fill in. That's going to allow you to later on find out exactly what's happening with this particular request for information. And then we've got a distribution list to ask those who might be involved with this as well. So you then hit create, and that will have created a RFI, and the user, the demo user in this case, will have been notified that there is an RFI waiting to be approved. So that might have gone from somebody on site to perhaps maybe their manager, who needs, or they then know who they need to push it through to get that answer. So it's following a chain, essentially. Again, this might be all stuff that you would want to create process maps for at the beginning of a project or as a company, so that you know who's going to be involved in this process. So like I said, I was going to mention quickly how you customize these so that you know who's in the list and how these RFIs are actually working. You have a little bit of customization with them. So in the project admin area under project management, so we looked at field management before, I think. We have RFIs, and in here we choose who the creator is going to be. So in this case, we've got all users. We've got then the manager, who I put in as a role. So inside of BIM 360 Docs, you can create roles. You can assign by company, and you can assign by an individual user. Roles are the most robust way of distributing permissions, just because it allows you to customize, and you can also use them in the template. You've also then got the reviewers. So in this case, that might be the mechanical engineer, or again, you can choose multiple people, so it could include the structural engineer. Essentially, this is going to allow me to choose people off that list. So you want this list to be fairly short, so people don't choose the wrong people. When you're talking about a workflow, you have the option to set up a creator, manager, and then reviewer process, or you can choose the creator, manager, reviewer 1, and reviewer 2. So the reason you might choose review the second process, I guess, is maybe it needs to go through 2 different disciplines, the architect and the MEP, perhaps. But yeah, you have those options for RFI workflows. And when we come to it as well, this is where you can also add people to be able to use submittals. The only thing you do from here is just add person to the list, company or role. So just to go back to project management, I've got my phone up here again, so I can quickly demonstrate how you create an RFI from your phone, which might be the more likely option. So I've got the access to the same project using BIM 360 app. By the way, there is only one BIM 360 app because all of these modules are plugged into BIM 360 docs. There's just one app called BIM 360. There are probably others floating around, but it's literally just called BIM 360, nothing else in terms of an app. So you can see here down the bottom, I have things like checklists, issues, etc. And then at the top, my plans and my project files. What I'm going to do is I'm going to find a PDF that might have been shared by an architect. So I'm just looking at some of the drawings I have here. So if you kind of imagine maybe I'm on site. And then perhaps I've got something that I need to ask a question about. There's something that's come up. So I need to just quickly maybe just find out exactly what's going on with something. Perhaps you're reviewing the drawings at the beginning of the week. So I've got maybe a little hatch at the top there, and then down at the bottom, do that, try and move that a little bit up just in case there's any issues with the, there we go. So down the bottom here I've got RFI, so I just need to tap where I would like the RFI, and then I just add in the information via the phone. So I can say, should hatch, float, add a question, probably should make that more the title. So just put should actually float. Add a suggested answer if I have one. No, maybe a bit presumptuous. I'm going to assign that to one person I can in this case, just because of the settings I have. You probably want more people than that. Then I can add the due date and all the things I have the option to on the desktop. The other option I have, I'll have a little picture of a camera down here at the bottom, so I can just take a picture of the wall I have in front of me and just hit done, and add perhaps a picture of that hatch or the area the hatch is going to go onto, add any notes, and then just hit create. That's going to inform then those people who are need to do something about this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my phone out of the way and come back to my PC and maybe act as the manager who might be sort of pushing these RFIs through. So I should have the new RFI here, so it's pretty quick, and I'll have the information about it. I've got the image, the document that's attached to here. The attachment in this case is the image, and what I can then do is I can then submit to the reviewer. So I'm the manager, perhaps managing these RFIs, coming from my project managers, and I'm pushing through to the correct reviewer. So in this case, perhaps this is going to be on the architectural on this list. No, office structures. So Nathan can deal with this one, and then in co-reviewers that might need to be involved. So an architect can do that. And then the distribution list can be anybody that just needs to know about it. So everybody's going to get some emails and then submit this. And then the review process will start for those guys. So because I am the account admin, I can do all of this. They can then review this. I have the one review response set up, so I can then submit the response, which is it should be float with no leaves collect on the hash with room. There we go, and then submit. And in there we've got all of the information about this particular RFI then. What we can actually do in activity is almost use this a bit like MSN and just add notes. I can actually just involve random people on the project. So if I put an app symbol, I can say, so this is why, what are your thoughts? And you've just got all of the information that might be going backwards and forwards in an email happening inside the particular RFI that it is dealing with, so that all of the information is in the right place. Issues work very, very similarly.
But this just allows you to break out your RFIs and have that review process in place. It's going through a formal procedure with the RFIs. So that's RFIs. We also have submittals. So the way that submittals work, that you come up with items first. So I suppose an example of this might be perhaps that somebody on site needs to, they haven't been told what material they're going to use, and they need to, or they've decided that they're going to come up with an item or specification and then put it through a review process to be approved by the designer perhaps. But it's so that there's a workflow there for specifications and items on site. So some examples I have here are some product data, perhaps some acoustic feeling, so things about product data, maintenance, O&M manuals that you might push backwards and forwards. But anything that you need to go through this procedure, again, it's going through a formal review system. So I can create new items, and the way that items work is that you have spec sections. So I've not worked with spec sections before, but perhaps some of you will be more familiar with this. Then you add titles for those, so the themes might be grid review, description. Then you can create packages in here of items. So if you would say the architect might be dealing with ceilings, there might be 6 different types of ceilings. So you have 6 items you're pushing through. You can package all of those and then push them through all in one go, so that you have them in one area rather than having them perhaps all over the place. You can choose the type. So this might be to do with product data about those ceilings. Assign it to somebody, so assign it to Chris, add a due date. Again, there's lots and lots of metadata because we just need to be able to find these later on, and we're likely to have a lot of items. So I could browse to that spec if I had one, and then just pop in a data sheet perhaps about the particular ceiling. I can then add required date, required approval date, and required on-site job date, and then a lead time for that as well. I'm just going to create it as it is. And then, like I say, packages allows you to create packages of different things. So if I was looking at ceilings, I can then say, that's where you go. Choices. And then what I can do in here is add the items in here. So it just allows you to put things in the required places. So I'll just put these 3 in here. So when I'm pushing them through a procedure, this item here, again, gets submitted to perhaps a manager who's going to review what it is that needs reviewing, and then send it to the relevant reviewers. So much like RFIs, different things, you just have more information to add in. You've got those things like when is it needed on site, and just different metrics. So you're breaking out what RFIs are and what submittals are. So I can submit to a reviewer and just put in the information that I might need to place in there as the manager, but it's going through much the same sort of procedure. So the reviewer can be Connor, and I'll make it the reviewer, co-reviewer, the due date, and then the distribution list again of stuff. There we go. Okay, so like I say, much the same as RFIs, it's just the metrics that are going into it and the area that it's sitting in the way it works. And this is in a package now, so it just allows us to group our items in there. And you can add and create spec sections at the end so that you can better kind of categorize what it is you're actually putting into what your items are going into. Okay, so that's submittals. The next thing that we'll look at inside the project management area is meetings. So this is really handy. This was added 2 weeks ago, I think-ish. And this allows you to create notes for meeting minutes. So if you have a meeting, typically you might go into that meeting and forget about all the things that you talked about. This would allow you to very easily create a meeting that might be coming up or one that's happened, and just add in information that's happened there and the people that were in the meeting as well. So we could say we had connections meeting for the west roof, and then the meeting topic was connections, performances, and then you could say add in some information here, say whether that's open, so say flange, saying random words now. You can then assign that to somebody. You can attach maybe the photos or the details about that particular item. You've got all of the invitees on the left here, so I can invite anybody on the project into this meeting. And then I can say whether they attended, whether they didn't attend, and then add any meeting summaries at the bottom here. Add a little note, and we now have that as a record inside our meeting minutes to go back to if we need to have a look at anything that came up. And we've got a little date range here that tells us when they happened. So a really little useful area to go to if you need to just keep track of meetings on a project as well. So the last module that we're going to look at is insight. So this is, like I say, for a manager who wants to keep an eye on the project, really, really helpful for just an overview on what's going on in the project, where issues are coming up. It will actually give you insight as to, so if we tap to the fifth, I don't think we're right here. If you've got things like welding checklists and you're getting a lot, let's say one welder comes onto site and he's continuously making issues, someone's going and checking his work and it's always creating issues, and there's always being issues created for that particular welder. That will be flagged up on here, and if a company is in the list, they will actually be shown as high risk on the project because a lot of safety issues or a lot of quality issues are being created about their work. So we're looking at the same thing we looked at account level, but we're looking at it for this project. So in design, we've got any design issues that are being created. The project controls area is where we've got things like RFI information. You can actually customize these views, so you can actually add cards to them. So these are just different metrics. One of the things you can do is add a URL to maybe a model from BIM 360. But this is, while it's called insight, it's basically like the metric center. It's where you can get information in visual format from all of the stuff in your project, which is really awesome. So we've got things like quality issues that come up, and these issues, they're all defined. When somebody's creating the issue, they will say it's a quality issue, so it'll be under the category quality, or it'll be a safety issue, it's under the category safety. So again, these are kind of procedures that you want to hash out at the beginning of the project so that they people put them in the right place, and you can customize them when you do this. So I did say that you can actually, with Insight as well, create reports. So if you have a quality procedure, you're going to be able to create quite detailed or less detailed reports for your QPs that might then get audited. So the way this works is I can create a report, and then I can create a report from my document management about issues, project management about RFIs, RFI summaries, submittal items, submittal item summaries. We could do an RFI detail summary. We've also got in field management daily logs, issue details, issue summaries, checklist summaries. So there's my RFI detail, hit select, and then what I can do is I can actually set up a schedule for this. So I can get it to run weekly so that I have every week a new report for my RFIs. So I can export as a PDF. I can then sort by in this list different metrics. I've then got the option to filter by certain things. So like I say, I just want to see Connor's RFI. I don't want to see anybody else's. I just want to know what Connor's been created in terms of RFIs. So it's been assigned to when they've been created, due date. And then once I set this all up, I don't have any RFIs, so I'm not going to add any filters. I'm not going to sort by anything. I could then hit Save Report. And then what this is going to allow me to do is I've got my RFI detail here. I can then say, schedule this out. So, report. To remember where this comes out, so I can then so my internet's a little bit slow. But what I can do, so schedule is not the right place, reports is where it's happening. What I can do with these is then run those reports. So just find what I have here. So I might have to veto this just because I can't quite remember where I would set the schedule to go. But you can set these to schedule out. So if anybody has any questions about those schedules, I can show you in a personal demo. But you can definitely set these to schedule on a weekly, 2-weekly, 3-weekly, monthly basis. So it's a really nice way of getting your information out of the project. So once you've actually got all the information in there, you might want to create something. What I think I can do is just hit edit and it'll be in here. Okay, I'll have to leave that anyway. Dug myself into a massive hole, but you can schedule these reports out so that they do happen on a daily basis, on a weekly, etc. But like I said, this is for all the metrics on your project. Really neat way of being able to see everything that's going on in the project. I don't have a lot in this project in terms of issues, but you can imagine as this builds up, this would be a really, really nice interface for a manager to be able to come into and just see why are there issues that are overrunning. What kind of safety issues am I getting on my site? What kind of quality issues am I getting on my site? Gives you just a really good overview of what's happening there. So just to quickly recap, we've been over the field management, project management, and insight. They're all the main bulk of what BIM 360 build is. There is that cost management module that you can also get, which if you do want to talk about, we can talk about. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to finish, and if there are any questions, I'll stick around for a couple of minutes and answer any questions that anybody has about anything they've seen, or if they want to see anything in more detail. If anybody wants to add any questions, I'm going to try and answer. Actually, I can't quite see. There was a question in the questions dialog box. So someone's asked a question, can you share project meeting minutes outside of BIM 360? So I think if you've got the meeting minutes, they're going to be happy with that are assigned into it. It's a very new feature, so I haven't explored that option yet. Let me just see if I can get to it. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, no, you can't at the moment. If you could export those minutes to something and then give them the PDF. But I'm going to say there's no way at the moment to share the meeting minutes with people outside of BIM 360. It does raise an interesting question. Recently, BIM 360 Docs added the feature to be able to actually share information, PDFs, etc. Much the same way as you would share things from, say, WeTransfer. So if you do have PDFs that you would want to share with people outside of the project, you can now do that in BIM 360 Docs. And you actually still have the tracking to the activities list. You still have the option to be able to find out who that's gone to. So public link to projects in the project admin area you need to have on, just in case anyone has docs and wants to do this. You can then select the PDFs you'd like to share. And you'll need to do this from the project files and not the plans area. So I'll do this quickly with the contract to basic PPE. So select the files that I want, and then I can share, and then I can share with the public, and I can then email them a link, or I can email them a link file. So in here I can put in my and then hit send. And now we'll then send a link to an email address, and it doesn't need to be a part of the project, and they can then pick that up. And like I said, what's really useful about that feature is you still have what's happening in the activities list there. So if somebody was sending things out, you can see Jonny Pye generated public handout from the CCP folder. And then once I picked that up in my emails, once whoever got that, got an email and downloaded it, you'd actually get another activity that said they had viewed it and downloaded it. You have full accountability for people as well. So I think that pretty much sums up. We've gone over very slightly by a minute. Doesn't seem like anybody has any questions. Like I say, if anybody has any questions about BIM 360 build or wants to see anything in more detail, do let us know. Same with docs. and design. If anybody wants to have a look at those BIM 360 modules, give us a shout and we can set you up with a demo or talk you through perhaps how you can work from home. But yeah, I hope it's been helpful, and I hope everybody's keeping well and everyone has a lovely Friday. It's a great feeling when it's a Friday, but it's a bit of a blurred line now between the weekends. So I'll wrap it up here. If there are any more questions, I'll thank everybody for their time. And yeah, thanks very much for watching.